Hey, you old ghostly ghouls and goblins out there. Welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here. First thing is first, this is a special week. This is a part 2 week. So if you have not listened to part 1 of the Halloween special that I did with Odd Pittsburgh, I want you to press pause right now. Scroll back down. Actually, don't press pause yet, but scroll back down, find the part 1 episode. Right now, you're listening to part 2, just to make that clear. But if you're here for part 2, buckle up because it's a wild ride, and I appreciate you being back here this week. I'm sure that you enjoyed last week's episode. We talked about boogeymen, we talked about ghouls, we talked about ghosts and goblins, we talked about haunted places, we talked about so much stuff. And John from Odd Pittsburgh is, I can't even begin to describe what type of person he is. I don't know how his brain works. It's fascinating, but we just had a long conversation about a bunch of spooky stuff that happened around the city, and this is the second half of it. But before we get to the episode, I've been getting pretty spooky, I must say so myself. Me and my wife just got back from a vacation, much needed vacation. We were down at Disney, did all the Halloween stuff at Disney. Then we went to Universal, did all the Halloween stuff at Universal. It was a fantastic time. Got to spend some time with my family down there, and we just had ourselves a ball. You know what I mean? Fall really feels like it's here. For anyone that's listening right now, I hope that you have gone to some local haunts already. I mean, we're already in the thick of October. You know, it's hoodie weather. I've been rocking hoodies all week, and I'm just, I'm excited. I got that feeling in me. Just hit up Castle Blood last night. That's no cap. I'm not just blowing smoke saying I went there. Me and my wife went to Castle Blood on a nice Sunday night evening, and we had ourselves a time there. We were the only ones in our group. We timed it just perfectly. There was a huge group that went in right before us, and then we somehow just got to sneak in, just us. Maybe we had a little bit of VIP treatment. Who knows? But Castle Blood, 30th year, it's awesome this year. It's called The Chosen, and I'll leave it at that. But go on down, Menneson, the Castle Blood, look it up, Google, you know how the Google machine works, and go check it out. You have to check it out. And once you're done checking that out, check out some of the other local haunts around here, because it's fall time, right? It's fall time. We all better be at the pumpkin patch soon. Shout out to Triple B Farms, someone back in the phone book I spoke to last year for the Halloween edition, but I might sound manic this week. I'm sorry, but I'm moving a mile a minute. I got to leave tomorrow again already to go on a work trip. So I'm trying to get all my T's crossed, I's dotted with all the episode stuff. So we have one dropping on Thursday, because I did last week too. I was on vacation last week, but I made an episode happen. I might have not gave it as much shine on social media as I should have, because I was trying to stay off my phone while I was on vacation. But man, what an episode. A lot of great feedback. John supplied me with all the photos that he talks about, all the articles that we bring up, and I'm going to post all this stuff and kind of give you a little face to a name, so to speak. But it's a good one. I'm excited about it. Halloween, like I said 100 times, it's here. I want you to enjoy it as much as I do. So without further ado, episode 220, part 2 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with John Shokowski of Odd Pittsburgh.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast. That is so weird.
Another place in Millvale called me, and he says that they've been having hauntings there for 100 years.
What year is this?
Family. This was just 3 years, maybe 2 right before the pandemic.
Jesus. All
and
right.
I still get calls all the time to investigate hauntings all over the place. Some I turn down, some I go, it depends on where it is.
What makes you turn them down?
I had one where it just sounded too weird to get involved with, and it was a house randomly out some, country road over by, next to Moon Township, Crescent Township, somewhere in Crescent Township. And the story goes, what these people were calling us about was us, meaning me and a couple of different psychics and other people that I couldn't, we'll kind of collaborate.
Yeah, the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, exactly. They tell us the specific things that had been happening in their house. One, which kind of freaked out the psychic too much, so that they did not even want to continue talking on the phone to these people. And that was that they kept on discovering dead birds at the bottom of the foot of their bed. An unusual, weekly things where they have dead crows would appear at the bottom of their bed.
What?
And, animals that could have never come in from outside of the window. And,
dude, I would be gone.
A lot of weird things like that going on there. And
Now, just to pause that, it's in the movies where where you hear a little kid running and laughing, and there people are like, that's fine. We'll just continue living here for another month. Hey, I bought this house 2 years ago. I'm happy here. If I heard this upstairs, I swear to God, I would be gone. This house would be flipped immediately.
I had another one.
Don't even know. We got to finish this story.
Yeah. So that one is. So I go to the house. I meet with the
Wait,
father.
you went there?
Yeah, I go there with my ghost busting tools and the EMF readers and all that stuff.
You're probably chomping at the bit. You're like, let's go. I'm going to see something.
Because of where this thing was and the fact that he was explaining that it's been going on for all through every member of his family, as far back as I can remember, people reported ghosts to this house. And now it's still in the family, and they said they only live there kind of part-time anymore, and all families moved away. And they just keep the house, and it's right next to that church where that bizarre haunting happened in Millvale, that Maxovenka church. Those murals, and that people saw a dark hooded robed figure walking up and down the aisles of the church while these bizarre things were being painted on the walls.
Never heard that in my life.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
I did bring it, actually, if you want to hear the story.
We'll hear it after.
But this house was next to it, so it was next to a known hotspot of paranormal activity at one point. As I'm talking to them, and I did a little bit of research into the history of their home and found out some of the names of their grandparents and who lived here, and even though they already knew, just try to get all the sources out there, find out what I can historically first, what is the history of the home itself, who lived in there before them, was it what was there before the house was built, and all that type of stuff. Anyways, if you go into someone's house with a legitimate EMF, electromagnetic frequency reader, it's meant to pick up exactly that, electromagnetic frequency. So if I go over to a microwave and I hold it up to it, nothing will happen, but then I push the start button, or I just push the buttons on a microwave. Don't even have to hit start. The thing will go off the charts.
Yeah.
If you go up behind a TV somewhere, a flat screen TV or whatever, and you hold this thing up, even if it's behind a wall of where a TV is, you will pick up on the electric signals being emitted from this. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? I don't know. But you do pick up on these weird signals from heavy electronics, things like TVs, things like microwaves. And the reason why you do an EMF recording or try to find these things is not necessarily to use it like a Ghostbuster, their PKE meter.
Yeah.
It's not like that, where you're trying to pick up a psychokinetic energy, which is what they're trying to pick up. We're trying to pick up an electromagnetic frequency.
Yeah.
Which is a naturally occurring thing on Earth that occurs. It occurs in microwaves, occurs in back of televisions, things like this, radios. Where it shouldn't happen is anywhere else other than those specific things.
Yeah, like in the middle of a road.
Yeah, if you're just walking in the middle of a road, middle of a room, somewhere, it shouldn't be going off. You might get some hot spots when you go near some electronics or something. But
an outlet or something like that.
This entire house was in the red zone of EMF reading. I've never seen anything like it. I thought it was my thing was broken or something. We replaced the batteries. Doesn't matter. We tried other people that brought EMF readers. Every single one of them fully off the charts.
What?
As if there was something legitimately going on in that house, either a paranormal sense. But my scientific mind kicked over, and I said, "What are the effects of high doses of electromagnetic frequencies being pumped through your house every day? Whether it's a faulty wire or just where your house happened to be built underneath, some kind of structure or something that was emitting these things that is dangerous to your health."
Yeah.
And it is dangerous to your health. It's being around, as you can imagine, a high emitting frequency of any kind, let alone electromagnetic ones. And I believe that either this house was built on a spot or above the house or attached to the house or something in the house is what's causing this high emission of electromagnetic frequency. So much so that, I mean, literally it's all the way up.
What do you mean it was built on something? Like, what do you mean?
Something within the air of that building or wherever it was built. Like, I don't think anything, it was built on top of something. I just think that like something built
happened in that atmosphere
around it, where it's giving, or like something is unnaturally giving it this EMF readings.
You think is there any minerals that could flag that? Like could be in the ground?
Nothing I've ever been really looked into that. I mean, you don't normally see houses that go off the charts.
Yeah.
Which
you've never seen that in any of the things that you've done?
I don't think I've ever seen it on any even paranormal show.
Yeah, and you said you used multiple different ones.
Change batteries? Yes. It was.
What were these people like?
They're weird, but nothing that
like
unusual.
Simple people.
Simple, weird.
Were they religious?
A little bit, but okay. And what I concluded for my final summary of that house was that because of these naturally occurring or unnaturally occurring extra strong, high emitting waves, it was making the entire family hallucinate in that house. These things, like they're constantly being watched. That's one of the things they complained about. Like constantly, they were constantly feeling like someone's over their shoulder.
Yeah, who's bringing the birds?
No, this is a different house. This is a different house.
What?
Yeah, it's a different house than the bird house. Yeah, this is a totally different house.
Wait.
Yeah, this is a house in Millvale. The other one was out by Crescent Township.
Oh my God.
Yes. So this was like,
I thought you said that.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
The whole time I was like, you just went to this house that these psychics didn't want to go to.
Yeah. No. I didn't go to that one. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Definitely didn't go to that one.
Okay. So that makes a little bit more sense, but that's crazy.
Speaking of that house though, somebody was going to go visit there.
Yeah. I want to go back to it. I want to go back to it because.
Well, as they were traveling there, something came through the radio, they said, and like yelled, like just screamed as they were getting, and they've just turned around. They didn't even bother. Like,
where's this at? This house again?
Crescent Township. That particular one with the weird dead birds appearing and other strange things.
And did you look into this place?
We did look into the history of the place. Nothing really that.
You never been there?
No, I didn't go.
You didn't even drive by it?
No.
Wow.
I Google mapped it. Yeah.
When some
Does
psychics, it look weird?
Yeah. When some of the psychics like that I know well, who I try to give the benefit of the doubt. I try to say, hey, prove to me.
Yeah, I
psychic,
get it.
Like I test them all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm thinking of, I'm hungry for.
Who was the dude with the envelope?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so when they get uncomfortable, someone who's legitimately gets hired. Now, the fact that people pay them to listen to them, it's different than what they try to do in their free time. Some of these people out there, whether they truly believe. Because remember, belief is a powerful thing.
No, I get it. I get it completely.
People believe enough in something to kill for it.
The lady that I talked about, like she believed it.
Believe it, yeah. If you believe something, it then does make it true to your own mind.
For sure.
So it's not like they're lying.
Now, let me ask you this. Like, what is the reasoning that they're afraid of it? Like, what is the dead birds? Like,
just a bad omen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you just, look up that type of specific type of thing.
Especially sitting at the foot of your bed. A
little unusual.
I mean, now, did you hear any of the other stories behind that? Like, or is it just saying, hey, we're finding dead birds
finding
all
weird
the time?
Things, and the kids were hearing stuff. I had another house in Laurel Gardens,
Goodness.
which is up by North Hills High School, where it was a single mom raising a 4-year-old little girl.
Yeah.
And she called me because her daughter was experiencing bizarre things in the house.
Yeah.
That was scaring her mother.
Come up on the mic.
Her mother only witnessed a few things. One being a shadow type of figure in their bathroom. One day, when you get out of the shower,
shadow guy.
Yeah, stand there. That's never a good sign, by the way.
Yeah.
The second, it's also they can have hats or other things that mean different things.
Yeah, the Hat Man.
Yeah. So, but they're all the same thing, I guess. But they would hear things coming up and down the steps and things walking. But the most unusual thing that she reported to me was that her 4-year-old liked to stand on her bed and try to climb like over the little curio cabinets next to the bed, like your little bed stands, and try to reach to the ceiling to try to grab an invisible hand that she told her that was trying to reach down and grab her. And she called this invisible friend that lived in the ceiling, is what she told her mother. Now I went there. I talked to the little girl.
No way.
Yeah. Now
where's this at?
In Laurel Gardens, so North Hills.
Okay.
And she, wasn't she wasn't really like thought it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was just
it was like
you see in a movie where a little kid's like, yeah, we hang out all the time.
Yeah, and it was scaring her mother to death. I mean, like her mother was scared to death, not just of her house, but like just being around her daughter almost at certain points, thinking about she's going to say something like, and she did. She said another time she was in the same bedroom and she was talking to somebody. Like her daughter just woke up. She was sleeping with her in the same bed, and her daughter woke up and was just talking.
Nope.
And she woke up and she said, "Who are you talking to?" And she says, "Well, the man sitting there in the corner."
Dude, I have the craziest chills. Like my eyes are watering. I'm like freaking. Like,
yeah. So
let me ask you about this. Like we're talking about like manifesting things in your mind. Like, do you ever get scared of like poking? Curiosity killed the cat.
Oh yeah. I truly believed as a kid, and I'll just be honest with you.
Yeah,
is that like I did believe as a kid that if I thought about something hard enough,
you can make it happen.
I can make it happen, and that included my worst fears. So it was just a matter of trying to purposely push that element out of my head. And I tell it even to my own kids now that they all have nightmares. Well, my oldest never has nightmares his whole life. My middle son, nothing but nightmares. And
really,
still, and he's 12. So it's just a matter of like,
do you ask him about like what the content is?
He has a recurring nightmare. Yeah, which are the weird ones, and nothing that can be explained. But it just has a lot to do with the fears, just coming to life in the form of a man or something.
Do you ever like talk to him about like your experiences that? Like you're open about that?
He'll listen to this. Yeah.
Oh, he's an open.
For sure. He loves this type of stuff. And I think part of that, especially with kids, is when you're into this type of stuff, you start scaring yourself.
Will you tell me what his nightmare is?
His recurring nightmare is about a man with a knife, who comes in at night and just like comes through the house and, just walking around the house type of thing. And just like he can't leave the bedroom because the guy's outside or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, no, we've never had any thing like that ever happen. Never hope it's not a premonition.
Yeah.
And like, but he does have that type of thing. My youngest son, he has a recurring dream that he's been scared of. And he's recently just become scared of the dark for the first time in his life. He's 5. So it's just like, he was never scared of the dark ever. Just recently, he's been scared because he's usually watching something creepy or something that will make him scared or something like that. But he also has a recurring dream. He told me for the first time just last week. He said that it was about a barrel of hay that just kept growing and growing.
Jesus.
And like he couldn't get out of the hay or something like this. It was very specific, and he says he has it every couple of days or every week. Another one was birds inside our house, like in the walls of our house, and there would be so many birds developing inside our house that we had to move. That's like his dream.
Jesus.
Now, I did look these things up because I have a great dream dictionary.
Yeah,
it tells you like, well, what are birds? What types of things with birds? What do they all mean something different? You can take that stuff with a grain of salt.
So how do you approach like the idea of like what you put in front of the kids? Because we're talking about people like like Slender Man and like kids, like what they believe and what they can manifest.
Yeah.
How do you keep that from getting out of control?
Well, it's tough because like I am guilty of it. I'm sure like most parents of saying like of not using the boogeyman by name, but using a type of boogie to get your child to do something. And this is a thing that has been passed down for who knows how many generations of ways, techniques, bad ones, mind you. I've since learned my lesson to use something like that, or say, don't go in there. The thing might, just because you don't want them to go in a room, you accidentally say something you didn't mean, and then it takes it too far, and then it becomes a problem. So how do you deal with that? So what I've always done, and they've known, I used to joke around with them back when Halloween time would come and say, okay, Daddy's got to go. It's usually because I had to do a podcast or a show or something. I pretend like I had to go to the cemetery and like kill the zombies as they woke up on, Halloween Eve or whatever.
That's the best.
I remember when my son was 9, I said, good luck. He made me like a little kit and like, just in case the zombie got me and like,
that's the best.
Yeah. And like, and so like, but I've always been but now, as I got older and stuff, even with my 5-year-old now, I treat him much older than 5.
Yeah.
And I tell them straight out, just like I'm telling you. I don't. My wife hates it because I don't beat around the bush.
Yeah.
A lot. I'm very direct, and I don't care of the
repercussions of
what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Because I know that I want to try to explain to them how there are things that are explained. There are things that are unexplained.
Yeah, instead of you being afraid of this for this reason, this is a reason that you should not or you should.
Well, and say the things like this, you get afraid, I get afraid, everybody gets afraid of dark, of aliens, or whatever you want, you can be afraid of something. Okay, it's not rational. And then to explain what that is to a child is tough.
Yeah.
Because they just immediately see dark, they see scary.
That's fascinating.
So how do you get through that? Is you make yourself the master of your dreams, like they always say, or the master of your consciousness.
Yeah.
And you say, I am in control of what I'm afraid of and what I'm not afraid of. And this boogeyman or Freddy Krueger who lives in the corner or whatever, he's not going to scare me because he works for me.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. He's not going to torture me. I'm going to torture him from now on.
Yeah.
And that's how I beat my own demons. Is when I used to have horrible nightmares and things like that of weird Michael Myers and Freddy Kruegers or whatever. And I just lined them up in a big long line in my mind. And I sat at the table and I pretended like they were checking out, right?
Yeah.
I said, okay, Mr. Krueger, it's been nice working with you, all these years, but it's time for you to go. And they were like, oh, John, it sucks. I really like being here and scaring you. I was like, oh, that's too bad. You got to go with all the other guys. And I kind of pushed them out. And I still think about that. And ever since I did that, I never had another bad nightmare like that ever again.
How old?
I was probably 11, 12 years old when I did that.
That's interesting.
And, but I always had this fear, that I would allow them back in, or that I knew I'm pushing them out on purpose. Even in my house, when I'm walking up and down the hallways at night, when everyone's sleeping, I feel like I'm on purpose, not trying to think about the thing that might get me down the hallway or whatever.
100%.
And but I know deep down there's nothing to be afraid of, but just like anybody,
it creeps in. Even here, it's luckily, knock on wood, I've never had, my biggest fear in the world was me moving into a place and starting to feel a certain way about it. But luckily this place, I've always felt good here, but it's the way I think about it now is whenever I was younger, living at my parents' house, they'd be like, oh, go, if we had an old pot of food in the fridge, go out in the back and throw it over the hill.
Right.
And that was we had an acre of land. So that's 100 foot, 150 foot against woods.
Right.
And I'm seeing things like the Blair Witch. I'm seeing things like The Village.
Oh yeah.
And my parents never sheltered me from any movies or anything like that. And my brother was older. So he loved terrorizing me.
Right.
So like you were saying, I built this shit in my mind for sure, but it's I don't know. It's weird how, I don't know, because you were saying I like to you don't beat around the bush whenever you talk to your kids. It's do you think that nowadays that's more of the common approach rather than it was back then?
Hopefully, let's hope.
I would think so. But I feel that's how I would do things. I feel that's how my brother does things. He has kids and my cousins. It's they're more of realistic. Whereas whenever we were growing up, it was just it's because their parents were teaching them from
I don't want to be, my parents were great. So I was lucky enough to be raised in a good environment, but I still, nothing was ever explained to me or ever told to me. I still had to figure it all out myself.
Yeah.
That's different between me and my own children now. What I do now.
You're literally an encyclopedia explaining everything.
I'll sit there and talk about, outer space for 3 hours, talking about everything that you could possibly imagine, any question they have. I try to find out the answer to and explain to them as cool as I do Pittsburgh history.
Yeah.
And dig into the deep details without getting everything away, because I want you to still go out and seek stuff. I just had the sex talk with the oldest kids, and I'm because they're in in 5th and 6th grade now, and no, 6th and 7th grade, sorry.
Did your parents have a sex talk with you? My parents never did.
My dad tried to when I was 19. It was already way too late.
I was I got the internet now, Pops.
Yeah,
I know what it is.
I'm pretty sure I know how it works. pretty sure I know I worked for a long time. So and how you approach that, I thought about it for many years.
Yeah.
And how does someone like me approach something like that? Like, do I give all the details away? Do I tell you about everything that there is on Pornhub, Like, obviously no. But you still have to explain at least a little bit about how the world works.
Yeah.
And how that is normal to an extent.
Especially nowadays, because there's so much of it, you have to kind of filter out what is normal and what is like out of reality.
Yeah. And so I do the same way I approach that subject. I approach the same, everything that you're hearing here, I approach it the same type of way. I still go into details per se, but in a lighthearted way.
Yeah.
And try to get more of the story out so that you get curious and you want to find out and seek the information. And you'll be curious yourself.
Yeah.
To kind of inspire curiosity. That's the main thing.
Spark it.
To spark the curiosity in others. Like I might be the instigator or found out, cool stuff first or whatever, or uncovered some stuff. But now I want you to go find out the answer to the boogeyman. What really did happen there? I don't know.
Do your kids, do they have like do they find this stuff as interesting as you do?
Not as much.
Yeah. Probably not yet. They're also pretty young.
I mean, they like, when I'm everywhere I drive, I'm like, that's where this used to be. That's where this used to be. That's where that used to be. This is where old man this used to be. Like literally it's a nonstop history
lesson.
Thing.
Yeah.
Anytime they tell me anything, they're obsessed with Fortnite, so I'll talk about well, did you know about the history of Epic Games and how that was even created and how they created this app that, it's free game and yet they're billionaires. Did you ever figure out how they did that? It's like you too could create something free and become a billionaire too. It's like you like all these YouTubers. Why don't you go be a YouTuber?
Yeah.
I'll give you the tools, technology if you're curious about doing that. If you're
that's
whatever
really cool.
You want to do, we can find out everything there is to know about it and do it.
Yeah.
Nothing's off the table in my house. I don't care what you want to do, within reason. I'll help foster that, and inspire that, and make it better than it could ever be.
Yeah.
And be like the ultimate teacher.
Yeah.
And,
put that opportunity in front of you and let you run with it.
Yeah. So I do the same thing when I'm explaining any subject matter to them in life, and especially ghost tales, because just like all kids are scared, whether they want to be or not.
Yeah. Your kids watch like horror movies and stuff.
My middle son, the one who has nightmares, does. He was always a kind of a weird. He was into that type of stuff. Like I showed him. I remember when he was 3 years old and he couldn't sleep one night, and he came out the living room and wanted to watch Gremlins 2 in order to go back to sleep. So he was always been a weird, cool kid, But so he has that kind of active imagination. Like I did, and I could see how to conquer that. In fact, I told him that story about how I got rid of my weird things that used to haunt me. I used to also, the only thing that ever scared me, like legit scared me, was aliens.
Oh yeah.
As a kid, I saw something like on Unsolved Mysteries or like Robert Stack, that show that he had. And I remember seeing like just the credits, and there was like this angry alien staring out, outside
it just
some
haunts
dude's
you.
bedroom window.
100%. It's like the thing that runs by in signs.
Yes.
You're like, well, that's in my mind for the rest of my life.
Right. So
or the hand under the door in signs. You're like, never forget that the rest of my life.
Right. So like that type of stuff, that would scare me.
Did you have aliens? Like, was that like, were you aware of that like from a young age?
Since then, yeah. No, I had been like under 10.
It's like, how did you even get like, exposed to this in the beginning? Did your parents like, they had nothing?
Nothing. My parents were my dad would tell ghost stories of when he was in college.
Yeah.
And like things that he heard, which were pretty good ones. This one he'd tell me about someone being scared to death, their hair turned white, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But nothing really that unusual.
So how do you start learning about aliens and stuff?
Well, like I said, I think I witnessed it on that.
Oh, yeah.
Solved Mysteries. And then
so that was like the first thing. You were like, holy shit, an alien? What the hell is that?
Yeah, whatever that was. And then I was like, out of fear, man. And I remember being so scared of aliens one night going to sleep that I don't know what happened.
Passed out of fear or something.
But I was sleeping. I remember sleeping in the living room. My mom was in the kitchen doing her thing, like she always did, correcting tests and all that. It's literally my memories are every night correcting tests, I was like, she was a school teacher. That's what she did, But I remember laying there, and I remember like being I must have seen it by accident again, or got reminded of, or maybe it was one that I think maybe that movie came out, fire in the sky.
Oh yeah.
You know,
those ones look fucked up. They looked real weird.
Yeah. Like weird little old men or something, you know?
Yeah.
But like, I remember falling asleep and like trying so hard to fall asleep or whatever, being just so scared in my mind. And then something smacked the top of my pillow. Yeah. Like an arm or a hand or something hit it real hard. I never had an animal growing up. I never had a dog or cat or anything like that. So it wasn't anything like that. It wasn't me. It was my mom. But that event scarred me for a long time because I don't know what happened, how it happened. There'd be nothing weird about it.
No, the weirdest thing the only thing that sticks out in my mind, and my wife even experienced this with me, we were both taking a nap. Up at IUP, we were going to go out that night to a bar, so we both fell asleep, and we were both sleeping there. And I swear, I must have been, just fallen asleep, and it sounded like someone dropped a bowling ball right next to me.
Oh wow!
There was nothing there. Nothing fell over. Nothing. There was no one else in the house. Her roommate wasn't there.
Well, now that could be a legitimate case of auditory hallucination.
Well, she heard it too.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that's what's weird. And it woke us up.
Yeah.
So it's like, if it was just me and it was like one of them, like you feel like you're falling,
right?
I've had that where I feel like I'm falling and it almost sounds like a pop.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this really sounded like something like dropped like a fucking block or something. And that was something that was weird, but like that was also something that, I don't know. That house always creeped me out because the basement looked like something from The Conjuring. Like it was really messed up. But other than that, nothing really was like super weird. But what I wanted to ask you before I forget,
one other story I can tell. I just remembered.
Well, your kids, do your kids, have they ever seen or experienced anything like that? What about your wife?
No, she's never seen. She's maybe heard some things, but never seen anything.
Okay,
you hear like house sounds.
Yeah.
But nothing beyond that. My ex, who happened to live in that same house with me prior to my wife, she did see some things
in your house.
She was a little more intuitive, I guess, with that side, the psychic side or whatever. But she claims that one time, now we slept in different rooms because she's my ex for a reason. But we ended up sleeping in different rooms, and she witnessed something like, apparently she woke up and something was standing next to her bed, like staring at her. And she had this recurring that would happen in my bedroom that I sleep in today. And then she witnessed one time it turning like away from her, walking through the closet into my room. And who knows? I'm such a heavy sleeper. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So like, who knows what it was doing to me?
Yeah, like that's crazy.
She saw it go into me in my room. So that always kind of creeped me out, but I didn't see it, but she did see that there. But that was really it beyond. But I have, and my kids have never seen anything weird.
Yeah, they don't like. They don't say they like feel weird in the house.
No.
Okay, so
which is good.
That makes
sense. They don't
like
one room in the house, but that's not any reason real why. Just because it's like there's no windows, really. So they just don't like that particular. But they love the room. They just don't like being in there alone.
Yeah.
I had one. Now that I thought about it, because I was trying to rack my brain getting here, thinking of all the different stories I could tell, and I'll never forget this one. Now that I think about it, and I've been like, I just never cared about my health at all. Everything else was more important.
Yeah,
people more important, kids more important. Everything's more important than myself.
Yeah. So
that's just how I live my life. During the last couple of years now, I've finally gotten healthy and have lost like 60 pounds and got muscles and things now, which for the first time in a long time. I'm still getting there. But I always would get sick randomly. I'd get pneumonia more than anybody else. I've had pneumonia like 9 times. Now I smoke, and that obviously is a contributor, but I had like a legitimate cold that turned into pneumonia this one particular time. And it wasn't maybe the second time I ever had like a severe pneumonia. So much so that I had to check myself into the hospital. And I ended up in Passavant Hospital in the North Hills. And I was there for 2 weeks as like a 23-year-old kid with pneumonia.
Jesus.
It wiped me out. Like I couldn't walk, from the bed to the door. I mean, it was like completely drained you of energy.
Yeah.
Close as I came to death, per se. And I remember being transferred a bunch of different times. I was transferred to different rooms, like 3 different rooms maybe by the time I was done there. And the last room I was in was all the way down this long hallway and the very last room on the floor. And it was a room. There was an old man in the room with me, and then me, and that was it. We had a nice corner room, nice windows and everything. Pretty out of the way, which was nice, so you didn't have to deal with everybody, else down the wing. And it's not normal when you're in a hospital, when you're sleeping, if someone comes by in the middle of the night and wakes you up, takes your blood pressure, gives you medicine or whatever at 3 a.m. It's not unusual for that to happen all the time. What is unusual is to wake up at some time like that, 3 a.m, only to feel someone stroking your leg, like in a loving manner, like petting you. And then I glance up, and it's an old woman in black sitting at the foot of my bed.
No way.
I look at it, and it felt good, so I didn't really think anything of it, and then I went back to sleep. And it didn't scare me.
This is like you just woke up.
I woke up like a fever dream. Yeah. Saw this person, felt this thing, went back to bed. I told the nurse in the morning, I said, I know it's going to sound crazy. Now, at the time, I happened to be working at a cemetery, so I love talking about death. I have a lot of weird jobs, but one of them was selling spots in a cemetery. And I worked there at that time, so I'd like to talk to people, especially nurses, about death. And I always like to see what people's experiences are, because they see it every day.
Yeah.
They literally do. The nurse tells me, like, every day, just 5 minutes ago, some guy died down the hall. It's like an everyday occurrence at a hospital.
It's pretty wild.
It is wild. So how do you deal with that?
I literally just saw a video today of a hospice nurse, and it made me want to try to find someone to talk to, a hospice nurse.
Oh, yeah.
It would be wild to hear that.
All those types of things, yeah. You'd have to, it's a different level of
mentality. I have like a different level of fear regarding death, and like I feel like that my fear could be mitigated in some way by just learning as much as I can about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I told the nurse, I was like, I know this will sound weird, but was there anybody in my room last night? Like, I know that I had the normal people waking me up, but was there anybody else? Like, was anybody else reported
visitors or anything like that?
Because this wasn't somebody in a hospital gown.
Yeah.
This was someone like in a black dress, an older lady. So like, she should have been in the hospital maybe, but she wasn't. She was wearing like normal clothes kind of.
Yeah.
And she goes, the nurse tells me, you're not the first person to say that about this room.
No way.
Just straight up says it. And I was like, what are you talking about? She says, this is like a regular occurrence in this wing of the hospital.
Jesus.
This is like the 6th, 7th time someone's told me about that room.
So is this article you have about this lady?
No.
Okay.
So that was a personal thing. That was the only thing something like touched me.
I would have been scared if you'd have been like, this is a lady that burned in this room and she was wearing a black dress. But that's crazy.
Yeah. It was like
someone corroborated it.
That was weird. Yeah. And someone corroborated, which was unusual.
Yeah, that was
bizarre. The only time I
time
had something like that particularly happen. I've had things where it's just freaking myself out.
Yeah, but to be able to like see something and really like believe it's there.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Maybe it was that old guy and you were just hopped up on drugs.
Well, that's the thing.
I'm just kidding.
Well, the black dress, they just kept, it was covered. But but do drugs influence that type of stuff? Of course they do. It's why shamans have been taking them for millennia.
1,000,000%. People have talked about it, being like tripping is like the closest you'll get to ever being in contact with the word God.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it really does have to do with your own personal experience.
Yeah,
of how you seek out whatever you want to call a God or whatever makes you happy in life. You want to call it whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
that's what you can use tools to do that. Was I being influenced under the morphine or whatever they were giving me that made me have this fever dream? Maybe.
Who knows? Was
that person in Millvale being influenced by the electromagnetic frequencies being in there? Probably. When I was in that basement of that place in Allison Park where I felt that cold breeze, could it have been the cold breeze legitimately from who knows what? Maybe. Yeah. Probably. So now, is it fun to think the other way around? Of course. 100%. That's why I'm wearing a Ghostbusters, hoodie. But is it like provable? No. So that's what makes it so awesome and so fun.
Yeah.
And so cool to talk about.
Unexplainable.
It cannot be explained. It could be. We're trying to explain it. I'm trying to explain it. You can't. So when you can't explain something like a woman sitting on the edge of your bed, petting you at 3 a.m. in a hospital.
Yeah.
What else are you supposed to assume? Naturally, you're supposed to assume that it was a paranormal phenomenon, not me making it up. Now, people fail to realize just how powerful a human brain can be.
Yeah.
You know, like they can do these things. People, can, it's affected people in a poor way over the course of time. A lot of these different types of things that, that's why they have mental hospitals, because their minds snap sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's, who's to say that, when you do see something like this, or you do experience something like that, it's literally your brain. It's your brain, making you experience these things, making you, just like it makes you feel everything. It makes you feel love or sadness or happiness. It also makes you feel fear. It's nothing more real or less real than anything else. It's just as real as sadness or happiness or anything else. But is it like imitation? Maybe. Is there irrational ways to fear things? Yeah, all the time. Like there's no reason. What is the reason being afraid of the dark in your house?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like at 5 p.m. when it's not even dark out. Why are you afraid of the dark? Right?
Yeah.
There's a reason for it, and that's because of like deep inside you and your animalistic, whatever you want to call it. They're your natural instincts. Like why would you want to go into a dark forest 100,000 years ago?
Yeah.
Be eaten by a lion?
That's a good point.
You stay out of the dark.
Yeah, that's the monster that
if you
we're
got
all
10,000 years of people telling you and repeating you, don't go in the dark, something's going to get you.
Yeah.
Because that usually is the case. If you go wander off in the woods by yourself at night, something bad's probably going to happen to you.
That's
it's
a
not
good point.
magic or paranormal. Something's going to eat you like a bear, legitimately stay away from the dark. So, is there a way, I don't know if I talked about that in the last show, but have you ever heard genetic memory?
I don't think so.
Well, if you played Assassin's Creed on Xbox or PlayStation, Assassin's Creed is a great game. It's
I know everyone says it. I'm just not a video game guy.
Historical game where you play, it takes place in the future, where they've invented this machine that can tap into your DNA and make you relive or re-enter the DNA of your past ancestors.
Oh,
for a brief moment in time and do something, like achieve something they were supposed to do, to try to do,
like a butterfly effect.
Kind of. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and this guy his ancestors happen to be assassins. So that's why he goes back and has to like assassinate certain people. It's like part of the game, but you learn all about real life history. It all takes place in real life places and events.
Wow.
It's in depth and really awesome, but the idea, and it's a real concept. It's not proven, but the concept is genetically, just like some say that you could inherit your parents' musical abilities. You can sing. That's because your mom sang and your grandma sang and all these things. Or, whatever. You inherit.
Or your mom used to talk to ghosts or see dead people.
Yeah. So you have these kind of like things that are passed down, right? That maybe, and there's no real, there is some loose evidence of genetically passed down traits. Of course, your eye color, your hair color, your skin tone, everything's passed down. But what else can be passed down? Can anything else be passed down? Can your parents' fears be passed down? Can their parents or grandparents or great-great-grandparents' fears be passed down? Just like musical ability or your hair color.
That's wild.
So genetic memory, which is the terminology for this thing, is supposed to be a real thing. It's supposed to be one of the inherent reasons why you are afraid of the dark, why you are afraid of aliens, or why you're afraid of anything, is because of this kind of thing that occurred in the past, way deep down in your DNA, that just hasn't left yet, because you're still an animal. Yeah, we might put on a hat and get dressed up, right? But at the end of the day, we're an animal.
Yeah.
We have feelings, natural ones and unnatural ones, and how do you maneuver these things and develop certain ones and leave other ones behind, and all these decisions that are made throughout time. Is there a way to pass down these bad memories? Maybe one of your ancestors was killed by a lion or something in the dark.
Maybe.
And that's why you don't like going in the dark, because you have a fear that might happen to you. You don't even know that this happened to your ancestor.
I got to look back into my history.
You could have had ancestors like crushed to death or blown up on the explosion or whatever. Like anything could happen. And like, could these fears, their fears, be passed to you? And you're just the unfortunate victim of your ancestors' fears. And you just have to constantly battle them and get rid of them. But you're inherently passing them down whether you want to or not.
Wow.
It's a pretty cool concept.
That is pretty wild to think about it. I never really thought about, like, everyone talks about, your mom used to be able to sing, but that makes a lot of sense now that you say it.
Right. The other concept and what my general belief in what ghost might be. And I don't know if I mentioned this last show or not. I do mention it sometimes because it's interesting. Albert Einstein, the smartest guy in the world, right, came up with this idea. It was the theory of relativity. Well, part of the special theory of relativity allows, it's about space and time and the relationship between these two things and how they affect each other and how other things affect space and time, to the observer and to the person that's happening to. There's lots of different ways to look at how time and space work hand in hand.
Yeah.
Is there a way for a material, formica, wood, oak, whatever, plaster, lead paint, whatever, is there a way for that, a building, a place, to like record information, especially when tragic events happen, or murder, right?
Like
bad energy,
like record an energy.
And that the house, because it's trapped in the house, is just replaying that bad energy back. You walk in through a mist of bad energy that happened in this place.
Well, I feel like it only makes sense because that's usually what it is, what it's said. Something bad happened here. It has a bad energy to it. That's usually how it goes. Yeah.
He goes as far, Einstein, I have a couple great books by him. One great book called Ideas and Opinions, which is literally that. It's just generic ideas and opinions about religion, about school, about atomic weapons, about like everything. His
ideas and opinions.
Yeah, about everything in life.
I never heard about that. I'm going to have to look that up.
It's a rare book. It's really good. You can find it probably on Amazon, I'm sure. You can probably find it. But he talks about this in that book. That's how I know this. And it's straight, it's like a diary from him. So it's like not an edited source or whatever. But he believed, along for the paranormal, had to do with the fact that things like the house could be, or the energy of the spot where you happen to be, could have enough energy flowing through it to record it or capture it in some sort of way. Whether this thing that you saw at the corner of your eye is not a ghost from the past, from 150 years ago. That's just a ghost from 5 minutes ago. That ghost that you saw at the corner of your eye was in fact you walking past the house just 5 minutes ago. The house, this energy is somehow stored and just replayed it real quick. That was his theory about hiding ghosts and paranormal activities, is that the things really did happen in the house or are happening, and they're just reappearing or being somehow recorded because of something that happened, or they started replaying somehow. And you could tap into that. So essentially the ghost that you might be seeing could essentially be yourself.
That's some Inception
just
shit.
A couple years. Yeah, it could be from a minute ago. It could be from years ago.
Interstellar.
Like I live in that house for I'm 40 years old. So it's like I didn't live there for a good 10, 15 years of my life.
Yeah.
But my childhood was there. Who's to say that the thing I'm seeing is not the same thing that I saw when I was a kid, or that it is me as a kid? That a happy moment that was recorded, that now I see it as a ghost because it's just unnaturally occurring.
Yeah.
But it could have been me at Christmas, running down the steps.
Did you ever have any, did you ever ask your parents if they ever felt anything or like seen anything in there?
Yeah, nothing. And my mom had plenty of experiences in her life, which are just stories upon themselves. Like she would smell her great grandmother, like this perfume, but not a perfume, like one of those smells of a people. Yeah. She would just smell her great grandmother randomly at random points in his life. And she would always just have to like acknowledge her.
Wow.
Say, hi, Grammy. And then it would go away. And this happened at least 4 or 5 times throughout her life.
Wow.
One at Gettysburg randomly. One in the
Gettysburg
90s.
Is wild. I got to get back up there.
Grandma's been dead since 1967. So it was like she would see or smell her in different weird places.
Yeah, like why would you smell her at Gettysburg in the middle of
her? Yeah,
yeah, it's wild.
So it's real strange. So she'd have things like that, and then my grandma told me, I'll never forget this one horrible nightmare my grandma told me when she was like when I was a kid, because I think I probably asked her, do you ever have any nightmares and stuff, or what were your nightmares about?
Yeah,
and she said that when she was a little girl, she grew up in Manhattan, New York, in the 1920s. She would have this recurring dream that she'd be wandering down the street in Manhattan, looking for her parents. Her mom died when she was 3, and her dad became like this bad alcoholic who died in a mental institution eventually. But she was like seeking her dad down the streets, and when she finally thought she found him, he would turn around and have no face.
Jesus.
So that was like this things you told me about, and that scared me as a kid, of course. Because now all I can think about is like, the blank from Dick Tracy or something like will follow me around somewhere. Or anytime someone turns around, they're not going to have a face. Things. Yeah. So anything's a good story, But I too, who's to know that I'm just making these things up by saying they're stories or saying that they're real in order to compensate for the fact that they might be legitimate, haunting, spooky, scary stuff that might really be afraid of. Yeah. So I look into trying to prove it wrong to not be afraid of it. Yeah. And just like anybody, like.
I think it's fair to think that, like I said before, people are going to listen to this and there's going to be some people that are going to be like, there's no way, that's bullshit. People are going to think you're making shit up. But there are people that are going to be like, that's crazy and like going to believe it because 100%, like I have no. I don't know. I just don't see that. I know that people could just lie about shit. I did an episode called The X-Files where I tried to find people that had any sort of experience with UFOs or any sort of aliens. And I had people reach out to me and, I called them all and we had, I just had them tell me their stories and, like I explained to them, I was like, you could be lying to me right now, but this is never going to it's not going to make anything better for you. People are going to just think you're more crazy. So what's the benefit of it all? But I get it. But I don't know. I like the fact that, there are some people that aren't going to believe everything that you're saying right away. But I think the way that you come off and the way that you are explaining it is like you want to be proven wrong. Yes. You want the evidence of it all.
100%.
And it's like, and that's what's like fascinating about it. And it's like you have, and I feel like that the integrity that you have with this is like above all, where it's like, you're not going to just like make some shit up. It's like, you want the truth behind it.
Right.
And I think that that's super cool. It's very interesting.
Thank you. Yeah. Like 100%. I mean, that's the goal is to prove me wrong with anything I say.
Yeah.
Whether it talks about the history of hockey, the history of any of these things I've talked about in the past.
Gustav Whitehead.
First man to fly a plane. Not really.
John Brashear.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly.
Dude, I asked my buddy who lives in his house, like, when that's like a place that you walk through and it's so big and grand that like you automatically, my mind goes to asking him, do you feel weird in here? Right, and he said that he does not feel weird, although he's like, I don't see him as someone who would be like scared in the woods. If anything, I think it would be opposite. I think my buddy Dave is like very...
Like one of the guys that goes right in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like if I left something, outside, he's walking outside. Mm. You know what I mean? Me, I'm the one who's asking people to walk outside because I'm terrified of it. Right. But he said he doesn't feel anything, but I know that if I was in that house alone with how big it is, I would be creeped out.
Oh, yeah,
because there's 16 rooms.
For sure.
And it's just bizarre. But
it's natural. I mean, it's natural to be afraid of.
But it goes back to what we're talking about as far as like what you create in your mind.
Yeah, I would say that is like an unnatural fear of emptiness, of loneliness, of the dark, of everything that could go possibly wrong in the dark.
Yeah.
All these fears combined are making you feel this way. There is nothing there in the house.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever actually got on camera, a floating whatever? No. So the answer is there is nothing in the house.
Yeah.
There is something in you.
Yeah.
That's making you scared. But as far as something really being there, until, like I said, first minute, you have to prove it. Like, we live in a scientific world. We don't live in the 1400s anymore.
Yeah.
The sun... does not,
this is science now.
This is science. This is the world of science.
This isn't thought.
We have the availability, every one of us, to open up a computer or a newspaper or legitimately find legitimate sources, not, baloney, different, weird, random, whatever it is. Like, try to track down the many things as you possibly can and try to prove something either to be real and factual or 100% made up.
Now,
people have a hard time with the facts.
Now let me switch gears a minute because it's going to go right into it. You're talking about, going on the computer and reading and seeing things. Now, recently the government, all right, they come out with all these documents and all these video footage of UFOs.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Unidentified flying objects.
Right.
It's a broad term.
Right.
And I think that that's fair to say, but it's like, what are your thoughts on the proof of aliens?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there is no proof of aliens.
But there's not proof of aliens, but there's proof of UFOs.
Right. Now, UFOs are real. No doubt about it, because they are identified flying objects. Yeah. And if that is an object, then that is unidentifiable.
And it could be a drone with a balloon on it, or it could be an alien spaceship.
I think if I had to take a wild guess of what mysterious things floating around the sky might be, or would be things the government is making that they don't want you to know necessarily about the technology or the ship that they are making yet. I knew somebody who created the stealth bomber, who worked on the project for 25 years prior to the public even knowing that it existed. Now, and he told me all types of things.
Now, for the listeners' sake, who are like, who the hell does this guy know? Who is this guy how do you know a guy that worked on the stealth bomber?
He was the stepfather of my roommate when I lived in California.
Okay.
His father legitimately in Salt Lake City, Utah, worked for the government and
all right.
Worked on that project.
All right.
Particular project.
That's fair, but I feel like the people that are listening are like, who the hell does this guy know that's working on the stealth bomber?
But Bernhardt was his last name.
All right, that's fine.
Bernhardt, though, was the last name.
Now,
but so do I think that there's things that even the government might not know about? Of course.
Yeah.
Because there are things like, now if someone were to wander around in 1890s Pittsburgh and saw some dude flying on a thing like a Gustav, you would think that was something too.
Yeah.
You saw someone doing kites or doing other strange things, you would think that's
first guy on a hang glider.
First guy on a hang glider.
What the hell is that?
Yeah. So now do their clearly, any scientist or cosmologist or astronomer would 100% tell you that there's a 99% chance that they are real and that they do exist. It's impossible that we live in such a big universe for there to be nothing.
Yeah.
Like even if it was a freak, whatever fish looking thing or, whatever, whatever, like it's impossible just given the vast number of how many planets that there even exist. Which is billions, like the problem is people don't understand math or their brains cannot conceptualize large numbers.
Yeah.
Especially when given over time. So when you're talking about space, it's all about time. How long does it take you to get somewhere? It takes you, X amount of years if you're traveling as fast as you possibly could, the speed of light. It would take you like 37 years to get somewhere, or to the closest star. So now, that's one star out of not just 100 stars, not just a million stars, not just a billion stars, but billions and billions and billions of stars.
It just is never ending.
Each star like the sun, each sun having 9-10 planets, billions and billions
and then black
billions
holes
of planets.
That's
not even to mention all the quasars and black holes.
Yeah.
And all that crap,
like that's just, you can't even like wrap your mind around it.
And then quantum physics and all the wormholes and all that other stuff that's possible. It's all proven to be possible. That's the thing. Without Einstein and people like that, they've proven these things to be real. Now, was in terms of quasars and pulsars and black holes and all this type of stuff. Einstein with his black holes specifically. Wormholes are still in theory 100% true, but have we seen one? No, but they could exist, which could be an explanation of something could get from really far away to us very quickly. Okay, so that's one thing you could think of. Who's to say they're not time travelers from the future or something, right? But, of course, there is no proof of time traveling. Now, you can travel in the past, they think, but could you travel in the future? No, because the future is happening right now. Like right now is the future. Now. Now. It's the future now. It's
so
never...
It's unpredicted. It's not been written yet.
It's not been written. It's like Back to the Future. The future has not been written. The past has. Now, can you go back and experience that and, recreate it or see it mirrored again? Probably. So but could you ever go like forward? No. But then you have these paradoxes, there are these endless ethical questions like the grandfather paradox. Like, what if I go back in time and kill my own grandfather? Therefore, I would never have been born to even go back in time in the first place. Therefore, time travel does not exist.
Chicken or the egg?
That's that grandfather paradox. Yeah. So
wow.
There's many paradoxes like that. I
don't even want to get into it because it's like I feel like
I studied paradoxes. Yeah.
I feel like I could just like eat myself alive. Just like what happens here, but what happens here, and what happens here.
Yeah. Yeah. So so when it comes to how that relates to UFOs and the paranormal in the sky, that's a good question because like. Clearly, they have video evidence and photo evidence and, all this type of stuff witnessed by Air Force personnel. I myself, I sent you some of that Project Blue Book stuff.
Yeah.
Legitimate people. Now, just because the guy's wearing a uniform, calls himself a cap doesn't mean he's legitimate.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people, think that just because you wear a special uniform, you must be special and that everything you say is the truth. It's not. There's 50, plenty percentage of every profession where there's a bunch of phonies, people pretending to get through, their everyday lives. This occurs in the Catholic Church, of course. We think about all the people they abuse. Well, it's against your religion.
I know.
So it's like those things exist. Those things exist in every kind of field and every kind of way. So who's to say that there are how many people are in the Air Force? How many people fly the planes? You got to tell me 5 of them are completely fucking nuts? Of course they are.
Yeah.
There's bad seeds in every kind of group and every kind of profession people. Now, does that mean that they're lying? That they saw something they're lying? No.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
Because there's plenty of people like John Glenn, who saw a UFO, who claims they saw something in space.
Well, let me ask you this. Well, like what happens? So, what would be the reason that there would like? What would be the reason that these videos would be fabricated? Like, would there be any reason for them to be fabricated? The only thing that you brought up earlier is that, might not want people to know about the technology that we might know about.
Including people even within the Air Force.
Yeah, exactly. So you put it under this blanket of just like, let's just tell them it's aliens because.
A weather balloon.
Yeah, like that's just like a unsolvable, unexplainable thing.
Now, what do you think is more likely? That? Or magical people from space traveling here like angels, visiting us in the middle of the night and taking us away and anal probing us?
I don't know. Which
one do you think is more real?
I don't know. I know the government's fucked up, and I know that there's documented evidence of that, and they're sticky and they're slippery motherfuckers.
Things about like HARP, like their project HARP, the weather project.
But it's also like, I'm open-minded enough to believe in like the weird shit because I watch some of the videos and I'm like, oh yeah, so like, why would the government put these out and lie about it? But then like, just when you said that, I'm like, maybe there is reason behind it.
It would be interesting, I'd be honest, to find out if the people who believe most in aliens are also very religious people.
Oh yeah, that'll be interesting.
And I guarantee you, just like the Styx song "Come Sail Away," I thought that they were angels, but to my surprise, they climbed aboard their starship and headed for the sky.
Yeah,
right. The belief, the power, and the belief of something else other than that's not there, something invisible that's better than here. Okay, fantastical spaceship technology, the most advanced technology, whatever you want to call it, it's something new every time.
Yeah.
Right. It's just another way to try to validate or devaluate your time here on Earth.
Yeah. Like Heaven's Gate type shit.
It's taking time away from you and real life, everyday things that need to be accomplished and done instead of making you think of something that is most likely just like angels and just like, whatever. Now, there's people who 100%, will go to the grave saying that these things are real.
Yeah.
There's no proof.
That's true. Just like there's no proof that religion is a legitimate thing.
Zero, yeah. But now, does that make it a bad thing? It doesn't make it a bad thing. That's the thing. Yeah,
but that's the
I want
thing.
to preface that. Yeah, it doesn't make it a bad thing.
It doesn't make it a bad thing, but it's also like, I don't know. It's just like you go back to like, where is proof? Proof is proof.
Yeah. We live in a different age. We live in a different
and that's age. Exactly it. We live in the age of science where everyone has this access to science, where people are inquisitive and they want to know why. It's not just this is this, and people want to know why behind it. It's like, it's a curse that we have like all this stuff at our fingertips, because it's like, it just makes you realize that like, we have the potential to know whatever we want to know.
Oh yeah.
And you want to make sure that it, you just want to know it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy because you hear about stories where like, back in the day where, whenever like, the government's like, oh yeah, fats are bad in food, and it ends up being sugar. And you're like, it's just different. Like, they just didn't know shit back then. And I don't know. It's weird to conceptualize science and like the real things that are happening in the world.
I mean, you have to stay, up to date. You have to follow science news. You have to believe. Science is not a matter of belief.
It's just being willing.
You can't believe in science. Science is the facts.
Yeah.
There's a difference between facts and beliefs. Some people think that you have to believe in science, like, because someone, claimed they proved that the earth goes around the sun, I must now believe instead of just accepting that it goes around the sun. They have to believe it goes around the sun. It's like you had a choice.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. It's the facts. See, that's really the biggest debate, with when it comes to religion versus science, is like one is based on the reality and what you can see. The other is literally based on faith. A great book or movie to watch that does deeply dive into that concept is the movie Contact by Carl Sagan.
Yeah,
and it's about a pastor who basically is
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, who's kind of like questioning Jodie Foster, who doesn't believe in anything.
Yeah,
believes in science. That she has this experience.
Yeah,
in some planet or some star system Vega or whatever, where she sees her father. It comes up to her, and the aliens or whoever sent her there tell her that they chose the image of her father, so to make it easier for her to accept the fact that the aliens are real and all this stuff. And then, but then when she comes back,
she has to
no one believes her because there's no evidence of the experience that she went through, and there's nothing on the camera that she brought with her that's just static. No one could do anything. So the priest then flips the question on her and saying, so, since you believe, this happened to you, does that make it real? And she eventually has to confess that, while it was as true to me as, seeing anything here now and today, I have to accept the fact that it was, I can't prove it. Therefore, it's just a matter of faith, whether you believe me or not, that I witnessed this historic alien first encounter event.
So with the conclusion of all this, and there's no proof of things, you throw out things like the Mothman. There's no proof of the Mothman.
Right.
But there's millions of not millions, but there's, hundreds and hundreds of sightings, and there's, things like this.
Well, here's the thing. Are there? How many people do you think legitimately saw something like that?
You never know.
Probably like 30 people.
Yeah. See, I feel like it's hard now. I feel like the evidence now is hard to take in because you have bias in it. People know that it's going to be, it's going to get
like
people
some guy
to that.
In 1950, whatever.
Yeah.
Seeing it in the woods, like Loch Ness.
Yeah.
Okay?
You know what I mean? Stuff like that is what's like really terrifying. Like the first couple, I can't remember. I think his name was like Henry or Benny or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it was like this couple were, I guess it was like one of the first stories of being abducted. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to think about that. Do you know of any like specific stories and things of like alien type things or, UFOs that have been, notoriously known over the city?
I mean, there's been accounts of Pittsburgh UFOs, like ones I've sent you, which have, no one really knows what they were other than identified flying objects hovering around in the 1940s and 50s.
Yeah.
Which is an unusual time to be hovering around. Now, have there been like legitimate, bizarre scientific things that have happened that have caused people to think UFOs existed? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think I talked last time about that Chikora meteorite.
Oh, yeah.
That legitimately happened. That like caused people to think legitimately there were aliens.
I guess also back then in like the 50s, it's like, the military could had like, just a more advanced plane than just a prop plane that had like some lights on it. So people could have also thought that they seen something like that.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
Did you see Nope?
No.
Do you know what that is? You didn't see previews for that with Jordan Peele?
Okay, never mind. Yeah.
That movie is wild. He uses a lot of like scientific, not scientific really, because it's not really science, but he uses a lot of stories from the past that like, I don't know, it's pretty crazy. But the whole thing of aliens is like, I don't know. I feel like it's easier for me to believe in aliens than, in the organized religion aspect of the afterlife, but realistically it's the same thing. It's the
same thing.
Yeah.
Some people believe in angels.
Yeah.
Some people believe in like the power of some saint that maybe existed, that had magical powers. Remember, every person called a saint.
Come up on this mic.
Every person called a saint, performed 3 miracles. Have you ever read any of these miracles that some of these saints perform?
No.
I mean, it'll blow your mind, like how ridiculous some of these things are. Okay, and we, make these people saints. Some of them were like they showed up and there was no fish, and then they came back and there was fish. Like, and it just no one knows why there was fish. They just all of a sudden there's fish. The guy's a saint. Legitimate other things like some miracles. I actually know somebody who had what do they call it? Stigmata. Yeah.
No way.
And they bled from their things and stuff like that too. So, and there have been people in Pittsburgh that have done that. There was one priest, who was like a healing priest, who lived up in Troy Hill.
Wait. This person that had stigmata, like, can you go into what this is? Like, I don't even know how that happens.
He woke up, with feeling like there was pressure at one point in his hands until eventually it kept on developing and developing and developing over the course of months to being more weird things. And in fact, to the point where he had like scars starting to appear in different areas of his body.
But what is the reasoning for that even happening?
Some say, I've looked into that, what stigmata is, and how that, it's apparently, the person who is afflicted with this stigmata is supposed to be like a chosen prophet, to lead the message of God.
Wow.
Yeah. So, a bunch of hullabaloo.
Yeah.
Hullabaloo. Or is it?
Where is it?
Well, that's the thing. So we don't know, of course, about religion until we die. We never know the answer. Okay?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. No one's ever come back.
What about the people that have supposedly died for 15 minutes and then came back to life and like have this vivid thing?
So you tell me while you're dying on your own medical table and your brain's losing oxygen that you're not going to experience some weird shit?
Yeah, I that's a good point. Yeah, that's fair.
Like, have you ever looked in someone's eyes that they died?
No.
Don't want to, but you can see like it just fades away.
Yeah.
And what's going on in their mind. Hopefully you'd sleep forever.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'd have a good dream and go to your heaven in your mind, where you could be afflicted by these demons or whatever and be dragged down. Like,
what do you think happens?
I think that you just go to sleep forever. Now, I also believe.
Do you think that you have there's some sort of consciousness after?
No.
So sleeping, meaning like, whenever I fall asleep, I know that I'm asleep.
Yeah.
Do you think that thou have that? Or do you think that it's just out?
Yeah. You're out like a light. Now, as unfortunate as it might sound.
Yeah.
That is what happens when you die. Eventually, you're going to be put in a box or you're going to be burned alive or not alive. You're going to be burned dead, right? Cremated. And you'll just be a bunch of ashes. Okay. Now, I don't know about you, but last time I heard a box of ashes talk to me, it was never.
That's a cremated cat in that bag right there.
Okay.
That's a literal cremated cat in that bag.
There you go.
His name is Legend. He's chilling here. He was a stray that was sadly lost his life around here. I had to get him cremated because I unfortunately hit him.
Okay.
It was terrible.
Oh, no. Well, he's joining us for this conversation.
Never heard him talk to me, though.
Right. Yeah. So now these the facts are pretty, blunt.
Yeah. No activity in the brain, your body, no heart. It's all done.
It becomes blackness, and it's so hard for our brains to just know. Like, can you tell me legitimately what nothing is?
No.
Right. Because even your nothing is something, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's like, well, I think it's just a bunch of blackness or a dark room. Well, that's something.
Yeah.
We're talking about nothing. And it's so hard for a human mind to just a concept what a nothing even is. Because it's nothing.
Yeah. because even, the room in the Matrix that's just an all white room around us is something.
Like take something and you make it nothing, right? And like that is what happens to human bodies. This is clear. We've all been to funerals. We've all seen it happen. Okay, we all see them go lowered into the ground or be put into an urn, turned to ashes, and that is what happens to us. Now, your brain's gone. Your brain's it's gone. It's off. The switch has been shut off. Now, could electrical impulses still influence things around you? Maybe. People talk about souls. Does soul have a weight to it? Does it release when you die? Is there such a thing as a inner consciousness that goes somewhere, travels around, maybe gets trapped in your house? Maybe, right? That, by the way, cannot be proven wrong. So you see, I might tell you, that yes, there's no proof that it might be a ghost. There's also no proof that it isn't a ghost.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of want to believe is that until you can prove me that there isn't a ghost.
But I like that you're fair about it. You're very fair about it.
Right. You have to be, because like, that's the truth. Like if there was legitimately somebody walked through this door, ripped off their face in front of us and was like a dead ghost, I'd be like, well, now you've proved me right.
Yeah.
Now I know never to go in that closet ever again. And there's something scary there. Now, if I go in there, it's just a dark room and I feel like something's weird behind my back, I have to consciously remind myself that it's just my mind. It's me. That is the one that's being haunted. It's not the house. It's not whatever. It's me, and you can control that. Most people let themselves be overcome with the fear instead of facing your fears.
Wow.
So you could take that as like a powerful statement.
That's pretty wild to think about it because realistically, all the things that we've talked about right now, the boogeyman, religion, anything like that it all has to do with you believing that it is. And like, realistically, is it? Or are you just thinking it is?
Right.
It's pretty wild.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Do
you think? If you think there was such a prevalence of ghosts and aliens and things, how come no other animals experience this phenomenon?
How do you know? Dogs, there's been multiple cases where people think that their dogs see
cats,
things.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you explain that away? All right, maybe you can't. So now let's get all the teams involved. And find out. Now I've had that happen. I've had dogs just bark at a corner, and that turns out to be where a dog who lived for 20 years died, 2 months ago or whatever. And that was like his favorite spot.
Yeah.
That dogs bark at the ceiling at, whatever. Now, could they be barking at a tiny little mosquito that you just can't see? Maybe. Could they be barking at some demon hand reaching out? Maybe. Probably not, but maybe.
Yeah.
So like you can't prove it either way. But now, do bears and deer and squirrels and what about ants?
Yeah, like
the spiders. What about every living animal on Earth?
I think about that all the time.
Do whales experience ghosts in the ocean? Do they experience any feeling whatsoever about the afterlife? Does any other animal on Earth even care about the afterlife? What do you think happens to a raccoon when he gets smashed on the side of the road? Does he go to raccoon heaven? Does he go to the raccoon world and haunt all the other raccoons? Or does he just die? And that's exactly what he does. He just becomes flattened little pancake, dead to the door now. Same thing is going to happen to you and me. And it's unfortunate.
But prove me wrong.
We can make ourselves feel happy about other things. But don't get me wrong, man. It is what's going to happen. Now, and this is why, now it's not like, it sounds like a big Debbie Downer, right? Like, who wants to live just thinking like, oh, there's nothing, That's not how I live. See, because knowing that there is nothing, right? Pretty much almost 100%. No, I can always feel like I want to hope or whatever, but knowing that most likely there's nothing out there. I now choose to spend the day today and now in my life making the best that I possibly can right here, then and now, which is real, which is something that I can control, and not to waste, even though I do all the time, just like anybody else, waste all my time on Earth, right? Knowing and waiting for a better tomorrow, which is not going to happen. Maybe, but most likely not. So what can I do today to make a difference? More so than worrying about some kind of pie in the sky idea, or just even the thought of like coming back from the dead as a ghost. Like it's kind of egotistical, really. You know, you just you want to think about like, I'm not that important. I'm going to come back and haunt everybody. You know, hopefully I make big enough impact during my life that maybe my ideas or thoughts or things that I've accomplished could haunt you, and not so much my physical being, you know, or unnatural self or whatever. But the ideas that you plant and the people that you affect and the people that you know, love and care for, and how you treat everybody around you. Because in how you live in like a good way, you don't need anything of promise of a tomorrow. You just need today.
It's so interesting to think about this all now with the idea of like, you know, like who was the first person to think of like the idea of a ghost? You know, now that you say that, like, you know, it can't be Neanderthal because
the Father,
like,
Son, and the Holy Spirit. I mean, it's right there. You know,
I get it, but like, you know, it got to be that, right?
Yeah, it has to do with the fact that there was no such way humanly possible to find out the answer to basically any question you had.
Now, let me ask you this, though.
For so many thousands of years. Most of that, by the way, was kept on purpose by the popes and other people of other religious, you know, leaders of not just, you know, Catholicism, but every religion of all time periods and every sect of the world. There's some leader up top telling people what they can and can't know and believe in or not believe in.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it's been happening for so long. It's unique. The fact, now there's people who've all thought differently, I'm sure, you know, even 1,000 years ago, I'm sure there was somebody who thought maybe differently, but you would never say that out loud. But now, because we have access to the world's information at the touch of our fingertip, we're the first generation to ever have this experience, to have Alexandria's library, right? Anything you want to learn about, you could learn about it. It's the first time in the history of the human mind, human world, all of humanity it's ever happened. And what are you doing with it every day? You have access to do and learn about anything ever. And most people choose not on purpose. In fact, choose to believe the hype or the false things rather than seeking out the truth, even though the truth is right there in front of you. And how do I apply that towards history or towards anything in life? Is like using these tools and this technology that exists right here and now, and try to get to the bottom of the story best we can, knowing that I know someday in the future maybe we'll get better or, you know, be more in-depthly looked at or whatever. But using these tools for the first time in history to recreate a new story, a new thing that was always there. It's just filtering out all the crap that's, you know, came out of it and trying to find out what the real story is. And then you find out the real story is kind of the same. Is that like all these stories? It's all someone writing these newspaper articles or someone wrote these books, you know, the same kind of things. They're all like, you know, I'm sure a very religious person, you know, going to church every week, you know, believing in the devil, you know, believing in the consequences of good and evil and how evil forces can come about you and all this. Do you think stuff that was fed to them?
Do you think that anyone who wasn't religious could have believed that? Because, like, is there, you know, is that a thing in a world that's not like in a world that isn't religion? Like,
yeah,
do you get what I'm kind of saying?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, it's superstition. You know, superstition.
I guess that makes sense.
And just the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Will do a big part. You have to fight that. Like if I were to come here and give you a perfect example of how fake it is, that whole concept is I could come here with a list of horoscopes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'd be like, oh, here's your horoscope. You know, go ahead and read it. And I'll say, okay, here's my horoscope. And then I'll give someone else another horoscope, another person, another horoscope, right? Different ones, different months, you know. And then I let you all read it, and I let you tell me about it. And how does that horoscope affect you? Well, guess what? After the fact, I gave you all the same horoscope.
Yeah.
And guess what? It affected everybody the same. It affected everybody the same.
Yeah.
They say, "Oh, well, it sounds just like me."
They apply it to their lives in the way that it fits. And that's my thing, because so this is an interesting thing. Like, you know, I had the medium psychic on here, like spoke to her about it. That was one situation. And then the only other situation that I have is whenever we went to Mansfield Penitentiary, I took my wife up there for her birthday, and like you had this like, you know, VIP ticket that gave you dinner with a medium. And it was like me and like probably like me and my wife and probably like 10 or 12 other people, and we're all sitting around at a table, and this lady comes in, and she's supposed to be a medium, and she's talking to us, and then she starts to we're all sitting in like this big U shape of banquet tables. So she's starting to walk by, and she's starting to like tell stories and like get into like just like certain topics, and then she stops, and then she talks to a guy, and she brings up she just says, your son wanted to know it didn't hurt, and says something like that to this guy, and he immediately breaks down.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how his son died in a car wreck, and he didn't know if like he died immediately or not. And like, granted, that's,
cold reading. Yeah.
That's cold reading, but it's
magic
like,
trick.
It's a magic trick, but it's also coincidental that she said your son said that it didn't hurt.
It's a horrible, disgusting magic trick meant for gullible believers.
Well, how does she know it's his son?
Well, in order to go to places, some of these types of places, with professional psychics that can cold read or even hot read. There's two different things. Harry Houdini was an expert at cold reading.
Yeah.
He came here to Pittsburgh to try to prove to you.
Yeah.
And you could put him in a room with anybody, and he'll be able to tell you everything there is to know about you. He'll be able to tell you specifics about like your cousin who died and whatever, and just keep on going down the list until you believed 100% that he was talking to the dead. And he would go church to church. In fact, in Bellevue is where he gave a big speech. And he would challenge people to come, psychics, to come prove him wrong and see if he could figure out how he even did it, how he could go into a room of anybody and do the same thing you just explained to me and prove to you that it's fake. Prove to you that these people are doing it on purpose to sometimes just be that kind of intermediary person to help you grieve.
Yeah, have some sort of peace.
Right. It's not like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, not malicious. It's almost
in a malicious way. Yeah, it's done in a loving way sometimes. Other times it's done in a pure greed way, like John Edwards or Sylvia Brown.
Yeah,
who are completely 100% phonies.
John Edwards on TV. That
do they
crook.
Think they're no? John Edwards on purpose doesn't believe that what he's saying is true, but would he? Go out there and present it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Collect the check.
He's a millionaire. Now, using people's unnatural gullibility, against themselves. And I can guarantee you, if I spend enough time to learn how to do cold reading better than I already can, I could do the same thing to you.
Yeah.
I'd be able to tell you all about something. And you'd be like, how does he know this? He's reading my mind.
Yeah, well, that was a weird one because specifically just mentioned his son.
Well, now, granted, I've had psychics that have been, pretty dead on. I brought that same house where I showed you that creepy photo.
Yeah.
There, I did the research, and it was owned by a guy named Jacob. Okay, Jacob Weitzel, and he was in the 1820s. Now, for anybody else to find out that the person who owned this house was named Jacob would be pretty difficult. Second, it would be, unless you went downtown and did the deed research like I did, be the only way you'd figure this out. Second, if you were going to just pick J names out of a hat, like John, Jimmy.
That's
Jake,
probably in the top 20.
It's in the top 20, but not probably the first one you'd want to pick out, Jacob.
Yeah.
Yeah, first word out of this woman's mouth, when I brought her to the house, she goes, there's somebody named Jacob.
No way.
So I go, well, that was pretty good.
Yeah, like it's wild.
You passed, quest test number 1.
Well, so right? That lady goes to my wife, and then she mentioned something about a lady that bakes, and like my wife immediately breaks down, and she applies it to her grandmother that passed away.
No lady other bakes. No
who bakes
in her life bakes.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I get how like. I'm a skeptic in that way where like, I'm a skeptic in the way that like, I want it to be real, but it's like, I don't want people to be duped. You know what I mean? I feel like it's like you said, it's a cruel trick, but it's like whenever you have people that are, how did you know his name was Jacob?
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's weird things that are unexplainable like that.
Of course, which makes it interesting, which makes it say like, well, maybe there is something to this.
Yeah.
But even to the, some certain psychics, when you really drill down and really get into the bottom of it, sometimes, you have the innocent ones, who don't know what they're doing and they're just out of pure intuition.
Yeah.
Rolling on the tip of their, whatever thought comes to their mind, whatever it may be, that might be it. Using your intuition towards certain things, right? But it still always goes back to yeah, I do have that creepy photo. That is I agree that is something.
Weirdest photo I've ever seen, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely something. Now I would have to go back and I would have to check that door handle just to make sure.
Is that house still there?
Yeah, it's still there.
It's abandoned?
Yeah, it's still abandoned. I did get a EVP there, electric voice phenomenon, years ago when I first went in there when I took those photos. And it said very specifically, tell them about my symptoms. That's what the EVP said. Like it whispered it. And it was as if someone else was telling someone else to tell us about their symptoms. So that was very specific, very weird, very like there'd be no reason for anybody anywhere to say these things while we were there.
Yeah.
So like you'll have unexplained things. Unexplained, doesn't mean that it's fake. Number one, because we did hear it. We could clearly hear it, the whisper or an EVP, or you see that photo, you see it with your own two eyes. There's something there.
Absolutely insane.
Does that, so like, how do you navigate those realities? That's a good question. And the only thing you could do is dig in like I have, or anybody, or James Randi, like some of those people I've talked about in the past.
That's his name, James Randi. Yeah, prove me wrong.
Right.
Here's an envelope with $1 million. $1
million. No one's ever won it.
Yeah.
Now they've had professional psychics go in. Yuri Geller was the big one. The guy could bend spoons and stuff, which was a magic trick. I can bend a spoon.
I can too. I learned how.
Yeah, so it's like I know lots of good. I like
slide ahead. Yeah,
right there.
The old thumb trick. I got your nose.
Yeah, exactly. So like now, if I go up to a tiny kid and I go, hey, look at this.
For sure.
What do you think that's real?
Absolutely.
So like you can play on that. And there are professional psychics who do that.
And imagine back then in the world where it was like a world of simple people that like just didn't know what was out there. And you have one person that might be a little bit more crafty and intelligent that's like finds this little trick. Someone showed me a trick the other day that they learned on TikTok that like we were at Bashir's house. Mm-hmm. We were at his house and we were all sitting there watching the UFC and she goes, hey, let me show you a trick. And she goes, oh, I'll be able to guess a word, a number, and something else. And it was a crafty trick, but I figured it out like probably a minute and a half after she did it. But for that minute, I was like, what the fuck just happened? Right. And I was like really about to like just stop everything and be like, I'll pay you right now to just, it was like eating me alive. But then I was like, all right, this is how it happened. Awesome. But it's weird that like to think about, what phenomenon in air quotes happened back then that was a crafty trick. A
lot of it had to do with wrappings, they called it. If you look at early hauntings, you're gonna see one thing in common prior to the Civil War. But number one, prior to the Civil War, you rarely hear about hauntings at all, other than William Shakespeare. You barely ever hear a ghost story taking place like in the 1810s or the 1840s or whatever. It was only after the Civil War.
Why do you think that?
Well, because so many people were dying.
Yeah.
That women, back home, the widows and everybody else, the kids and stuff, all wanted these things to be back. They wanted their husbands back. They wanted these people back. And they created these stories and these legends that they're still here, maybe.
Things that they see in their mind. I can
still smell them,
Yeah.
I can feel like he's whispering right behind me,
Interesting.
And it was only after the Civil War did that really take off. Prior to that, you rarely find it. But when you do find it, it's all fake. So it's all people going to people's houses and saying, give me one knock for yes and two knocks for no. Or, everyone puts their hands under the table, all of a sudden it levitates,
So do you believe in a Ouija board?
Well, I would say, do I believe it's
do you believe it's a gate?
Do I believe it's like a gate
doorway
or someone from the other side telling you something?
Yeah.
No.
Because there's technically no proof, but there's no proof that there isn't.
Well, I have, believe it or not, the Ouija board was first premiered in downtown Pittsburgh, a place called Danziger's. It was a Halloween store.
This happened here?
Well, it wasn't invented here, but it was invented by a guy named, his last name was Bond. I remember that, like E.M. Bond or something. And he invented this game, which is all it is. It's a piece of board, cardboard with a yes and no and some letters and a planchette or whatever. And that was it, and it's just he put that together. The patent exists, and the first place to sell the game was here in Pittsburgh. besides the point. And even back then, it was known as like a novelty kind of creep out your friend game because of the weird natural occurring thing. You know, when you put not just your hands, but someone else's hands on it, and how it, moves on its own.
Yeah.
Where you are influencing it.
Absolutely.
It's like one of these magic tricks that you see.
100%.
It's like if Mr. Wizard could come back.
It's whatever
and
you
show
create it as.
Yeah, and show you how it works. It wouldn't be so mysterious.
Yeah.
It's the point that nobody tells you how it works. It's like, one of my favorite books or TV show, my favorite TV show to watch of all TV shows. You think like, what do you think is your favorite one? It's How It's Made.
Yeah.
I watch it every night. Hours. I watch 6 hours of How It's Made every single night.
That doesn't,
like in the background.
Doesn't surprise me.
I always tell my kids, it's like, I want to be learning when I'm sleeping, like learning how to make windmills or whatever they're also making on their big boats or RVs. Like I want to be learning, or constantly being
everything
fed.
Consuming, like having it all
like
pumped into
sleep,
you. Just like that EMP might be doing negative. All that's just like subconsciously.
Right. Let's hope. But and it's commercial free if you watch on Discovery Plus. It's even better. But how you go and navigate about distinguishing facts from reality, especially with things like a Ouija boards, and how it feels real, and yet it isn't real. Real, but meaning that nobody outside of you and your friends are actually moving the thing.
Yeah,
it's been proven. So it's just a matter of. It feels so weird and out of the ordinary that it must be supernatural.
Yeah.
Instead of having a logical experience. This occurs for you name it. People think it's a supernatural occurrence. I mean, you imagine yourself living 1,000 years ago when there was no textbooks.
Yeah.
In fact, 80% of the people didn't even know how to read.
Yeah, unexplainable shit.
So all of a sudden there's a rainbow. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
Who's making that happen?
A meteorite.
It must be leprechauns.
Yeah.
It must be something else. It must be God. It must be something
shooting
else.
Star, something
magical.
like that.
So, like, you understand, people for millennia, were never told the answer. They made up all these stories to go along with it, just to satisfy their minds, because your brains can't just have an open-ended question. You need to have answers. You need to have like at least an answer that feels right to you at the moment. Whether if it's a crazy answer or a poorly researched answer, or just the kind of these large majority answers and not independently researched answers. A group mentality versus individuals. There's always bad things going to happen in groups. Don't ever forget that. It's just a matter of trying to finding out for yourself and teaching that and how to do that to another generation of people of how to seek out the truth or what people can agree upon is the truth. But also know that truth is not really, 100% truth until you can really try to dig into every little aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like what I did with hockey, like you have to 100% until someone can prove you otherwise, like come up with absolute definitive evidence and saying, this is this until someone can prove it wrong. Therefore, this is fact now. So how do you take something like that and distinguish between fact and fantasy? It's tough. And people for who knows how many years have a really hard time doing that. So it's just a matter of your brain naturally adjusting to whatever feels good and feels right instead of what is right and what is real, It's just a matter of what it feels like is good. And that's the kind of weird catch-22 you have with ghost stories, because it's like you want to believe, but then you also deep down know that it's not real. Yeah. So, but you have to keep on saying. In fact, that's what you do say when you go into like the woods or a dark room. Say, there's no such thing as ghosts. There's no such thing as ghosts. Yeah. Right? Always there is something, because you're so freaked out or whatever is what makes something normal make it feel like it's a ghost. But like, it's probably not a ghost. So it's just a matter of it could be a ghost of you. Right. So that's the cool thing, I think. So I am still that believer. If I do have to choose something, it would be that. It would be that I believe that if there is ghosts, that like an apparition that you saw, that I do believe that it's like some kind of electricity passing through you that's just got trapped in the house, that's just being replayed. Do I think you could interact with it and have an intelligent conversation with it? No.
That's what you believe?
Yeah,
that's
I would
what
say
it
that
is?
you could be captured in a house and replayed, but not interactive. Maybe. But see, I have this personal experiences that, like that old woman, patting my leg. I felt the pat. Now that just been me and me hallucinating. Absolutely yes. But I like to believe otherwise.
But it's what your mind creates.
So yeah, it's whatever your mind, wants to fit into its narrative of what's real, what's not real. It's tough. I'm a big fan of virtual reality, and virtual reality changes that.
Yeah.
What is real and what is not real.
Yeah.
Your reality is different now. It's a completely different reality.
It's a good point.
And you can immerse yourself in that reality and keep yourself in that reality almost, like Lawnmower Man style.
Ugh.
So it's like
it's gonna be so weird when everyone's just like connecting and just like never
you can do
leaving
that
their
now
house.
if you wanted to.
I know people were like watching movies together and just
I play drums with people all over the world. I played with some dude in Australia the other day. I did like a dance competition virtually. So it's like
possibilities are endless.
Possibilities are endless. Now imagine if everyone could work together and try to solve the world's problems.
Yeah.
Or find out the answers to everything.
It's not as simple as that.
It's not, because a lot of people don't want to know. A lot of people are satisfied with faith and just believing in something and not finding the answer. They don't want to know the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
I told my son, I think I told you last time about the Pringles can.
Yeah.
I'm like,
people were just satisfied knowing that there could be something in there.
Could be Pringles.
Could be Pringles in there. I don't want to look because there could not be.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That'd be a real bummer if there was no Pringles in there. But.
Now, what is there anything you brought there that you didn't go over?
Well, I mean, there's tons, but
anything like specific that was like big that you think that is warranted to that people need to hear about?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you briefly. Now, there's a lot of good sources out there if you do looking for a good ghost story of Pittsburgh. So one is, search on Google, but beware that basically everything you're going to find or read is an urban legend. Urban legends having a small bit of truth, like the Green Man, like this Congliere Mansion. But don't get me wrong, you're going to find the Congliere Mansion story and not the real story. When you find the real story, that's going to be difficult. It's going to be as a matter of investigating things, looking at actual evidence from that time period, putting things like Martha Grinder. Martha Grinder was the arch murderess of Pittsburgh, a real woman that existed in 1869 who murdered people for fun.
What?
A woman.
How many people?
6, apparently. She confessed to 6, but there was more. People think that she was, did more.
What year?
1869. Martha Grinder was her name.
Grinder.
She lived in Allegheny City, north side.
Jesus.
She was a nurse, and she would go around to different people's, like her neighbors, essentially, and would help if there was anybody sick. She'd help try to nurse them back to health, but poison them in the meantime, or just slightly, just small.
Ridiculous.
To get the people sick, to keep them sick.
Yeah, keep them enough.
And then sometimes they
slowly
would die. Yeah, and so and she would get off on this thing. It's called monomania, is what the actual terminology is, of which she committed. Poisoning these people to death, and she was found guilty and hung in downtown Pittsburgh.
My goodness!
Right where the courthouse is and the jail, the old jail.
Was there a lot of people hung here?
Not many.
Yeah,
but they saved it for like the baddest of the bad. Like, there was a guy who was an axe murderer. He was the first person hung in Pittsburgh.
What year was that?
That was like 1810s, 1815.
Jesus,
time period. And that's a crazy story. Like I know, like the guy chopped his roommate up and buried him under the floorboards and all this other crazy stuff. Then put on the guy's clothes and went to work in the guy's clothes, and that's how he got caught. It's because someone recognized that was like the guy's clothes from the other day.
What?
Yeah. So that's how that guy got caught. But
that was the first guy hung.
He was the first guy hung. His name was I believe it was either Joseph Campbell or that was the victim's name. One of the names was Joseph Campbell. I remember that.
Wow.
Tiernan, I think, was the axe murderer's name.
Tiernan
is his last name.
Jesus.
But you had that type of stuff going on. You had the Cleveland torso murderer who came through Pittsburgh, and they found dismembered bodies in McKees Rocks, like on train cars with swastikas carved into them, and
really
strange messages and cut in half and
Jesus.
Disfigured.
What year was that?
1937.
Wow,
that's pretty early on, and they think it was the work of the Cleveland torso murderer.
Was that dude ever found?
No.
Wow.
And I think he has like 14 or 15 murders attached to like his name.
Jeez.
And many that were suspected to be of his, but never proven. I'll leave you with there was a few other big murders that happened here. One big one that a lot of people don't talk about. I don't think I talked about it last time. Maybe briefly mentioned it, but out of all the people during that time period when the Jack the Ripper murders occurred.
Oh, yeah.
There was only one person from America who was arrested. A guy named Dr. Francis Tumblety.
And he was from Pittsburgh.
Well, he wasn't from Pittsburgh, but
he lived here.
And worked here for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
because they technically never found Jack the Ripper, right?
Never found him.
So
and I have a direct quote from that Francis Tumblety, which I'll tell you real quick. It's kind of neat.
Oh, my God.
This is from Pittsburgh, which is cool. You know, the fact that he said this.
What year again?
He was here in 1858 through 1863.
Do you remember how many deaths Jack the Ripper was known for?
I don't. Let me see.
I got to watch that movie From Hell again.
I think it's like 5 or...
That was it?
It wasn't as many as you might think.
Yeah, probably cinematic, like just chopping people up.
Well, this guy who was legitimately the only American ever arrested for the murder of being accused of being Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
They even really couldn't disprove that he wasn't him until he'd escaped from prison in London. The same guy. He also a number of aliases. Wife worked as a prostitute while married to him. He was known for his hatred of women. He was known by the police as already a bad character, even in England and everywhere. He didn't live just in Pittsburgh. He lived in Chicago, Boston, a couple other different places.
What was his name again? Francis
Tumblety. And while he was here in Pittsburgh, a man was invited to dinner to his apartment, and that's this guy here, this Civil War like prominent guy. This Tumblety tried to get involved a lot with like government and politics, and tried to become friends with Abraham Lincoln even, and would write him letters and try to get like these. He was like a quack, like he would sell these like cures and strange things like that. But this testimony, that was given by General, let's see here, Colonel Dunham here in Pittsburgh, who was invited to dinner at the Tumblety's apartment here in Pittsburgh at one time. He lived on Liberty Avenue downtown.
Tumblety did.
Yeah. His exact address, I think, was like 820 or 822. It's like two different places, like a doctor's office and his apartment. But this is an actual quote from that man here in his time in Pittsburgh. Someone asked why he had not invited women to his dinner. His face instantly became black as a thundercloud. He had a pack of cards in his hand. He laid them down and said almost savagely, "No, Colonel, I don't know of any such cattle. And if I did, as your friend, sooner give you a dose of quick poison than take you into such danger among these women." He then broke into a homily on the sin and folly of desperation, fiercely denouncing all women, and especially any kind of fallen woman. He then invited us into his office, where he illustrated his lecture, so to speak. One side of the room was entirely occupied with cases, outwardly resembling wardrobes. When the doors were opened, quite a museum was revealed. Tiers of shelves with glass jars and cases, some round and some square, filled with all sorts of anatomical specimens. The doctor placed on a table a dozen or more jars containing, as he said, the uteri of every class of woman. Nearly half of one of these cases was occupied exclusively with these specimens. So, like, that's a first-hand account. So even if he wasn't Jack the Ripper, he was a pretty messed up dude who lived here and had Pittsburgh.
And then he got sent back and he escaped prison?
Yes, you do got to read into the story. There's a great website for ripperologists or whatever they call them, like people who specialize in nothing but
Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper.
Holy
And they do
shit.
a really cool, like detailed handwriting analysis of it and everything. Like you didn't think that he wrote the From Hell letter and all this other stuff.
I got to watch that movie again.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to do a quick, we're going to do a quick Desert Island and I'm going to get you out of here.
Yeah.
What just like a wild, like we said, I had no idea what we could have even got into, but I teared up at one point. Honestly, the picture you showed me was like, I can't wait to show my wife.
Yeah, I won't I'll prep before I text it to you so you don't just accidentally come upon it.
Oh, yeah, I don't, not in the middle of the night either.
Right.
But really and I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface of all this stuff. We got to figure out about making this a more regular thing. But okay, the ending segment that I do with all my guests is an ending segment called Desert Island Questions. Halloween edition. Okay. This is a bridge version too. So 3 of your favorite Halloween movies to take on a desert island. So spooky movies, like what do you like?
Yeah, spooky movies. Nightmare on Elm Street's still one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I went to film school. My music teacher wrote the music to Nightmare on Elm Street. So that was kind of cool.
Oh, shit. That's cool.
And I've met Freddy Krueger and all those people. And so I always loved Nightmare on Elm Street. And then I'm going to say I love good old classic horror films like black and white classic, like creepy ones like The House on Haunted Hill, you know, or some like early Vincent Price type of stuff.
Yeah.
Or any kind of thing by Alfred Hitchcock or those types of thrillers, you know. Kind of psychological thrillers.
Yeah.
And then I love my all-time favorite gross out like horror film was Dead Alive.
Oh yeah,
when I was a kid. You know?
I always love the
Peter Jackson's.
box.
Yeah. I used to force all my friends to watch that movie.
Oh yeah,
the zombie babies and the lawnmower.
It's been a long time since I watched that.
Yeah, the mom turns into the zombie and everything.
Man,
it's a great movie.
I'm gonna have
Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings.
I'm gonna have to. Wow, was that really Peter Jackson?
Yeah.
I never realized that. I got to watch that again.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Okay, second category. I usually ask you books, but I want to know 3 of your favorite Halloween candies.
Oh, 100% Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, number 1.
Yeah.
And every other form of Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, number 2.
Yeah.
I like, I'd say, oh boy, Oreos. Pretty good for Halloween.
I don't know if I've ever gotten an Oreo for Halloween.
Yeah. And then, not a fan of candy corn, not a fan of any other thing like weird like that, but
popcorn balls.
Yeah. Let's say more peanut butter cups.
What
Peanut butter cups.
Is that what you give out for Halloween?
Not only do I give it out, but like I give out the big ones, and then also like my whole life I've traded literally all my other candy for the peanut butter cups.
Yeah, I was a Kit Kat guy. I always traded for Kit Kats.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, are you like people that decorate for Halloween?
Oh yeah. I've been come September 1st. I'm on it.
Okay, you get a lot of people that come to your house.
Oh, we get tons. I got a big neighborhood, and then we get 100 kids.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's fun.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah.
Now, I usually ask, 3 CDs, but I mean, like, do you have any spooky movie like scores or soundtracks you could think of that you like?
Tons of great ones. My favorite of all time for best horror film soundtrack, it's got to be The Omen by Jerry Goldsmith. He won an Academy Award for Ave Santani, which is a satanic song in that movie. It's amazing.
An Academy Award?
Yes.
Wow.
I
don't know if I've ever seen the original one.
Oh my God, it's Gregory Peck. It's amazing.
Man, I should watch that.
If you have to pick a movie for Halloween to watch The Omen, the original Omen from 1970.
So I'm about to do a Halloween episode with a couple movie people, and I have to watch Rosemary's Baby. I have to watch Man Without a Face, or not Man Without a Face, but it's called like Women Without a Face or something like that. And what's the other one I have to watch? Another old one that was a classic and I've never seen. Eraserhead.
Oh yeah, right. Well, it's not really a Halloween film, but it's a good one.
Yeah, but like,
sure. Yeah,
I gotta watch it all.
It's so weird. I made a short film when I was a kid, like based on a David Lynch film back in the day. But anyways, you're
dancing Michael Jackson.
Yes, yeah. There's part of that. This has to do with David Lynch.
That's the best.
But the alternate ending for that film. But the the best horror music, and I know a lot.
Yeah,
because I'm like an aficionado on film scores and horror film scores. The Omen's got to be number 1 for scariest. Number 2, you got to have anything by Bernard Herrmann, which is the guy who wrote everything from Alfred Hitchcock's films.
Oh, okay.
So he wrote like North by Northwest, Psycho, Vertigo, The Day the Earth Stood Still. He did Citizen Kane. He did a lot of other big films, but like his scores specifically for Hitchcock were none other.
Only ones I've ever seen out of that
amazing.
Was Birds and Psycho. Never seen any of them.
You gotta have like a Alfred Hitchcock marathon.
Yeah,
for sure. Like his movies are messed up and they're really good. Especially Vertigo and stuff like that. North by Northwest is great too. It's like a spy who gets accidentally mistaken. Well, he's not a spy, but he gets mistaken as a spy. This guy's just trying to get away. But all this stuff is happening. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I gotta watch them.
The music's epic. Like that, Bernard Herrmann does some of the best music. And then, of course, Psycho. Who could forget Psycho?
Yeah.
You just hear the music, you know what's happening.
Yeah.
And then, say the anything by Jerry Goldsmith is going to be good for Halloween time. He did the soundtrack for the Twilight Zone, the movie.
Oh, wow.
Does some pretty cool parts to it. And then Total Recall. He did a whole bunch of really good movies. But The Omen, I'm going to say, I'll pass on the third one. There's so many good ones. I mean, you could go on to creepy. If you're looking for a good classical composer, to look for creepy music. Because remember, people back then, you got to listen to Paganini or anything by Liszt or anything by Hector Berlioz, like the Symphonie Fantastique. Liszt is cool, but you know the story behind Paganini, right?
No.
Paganini was a violin player. He was born around the 1730s, I think. So this is earlier than Mozart, earlier than Vivaldi, earlier than Bach. Yes, you're talking Baroque, like early Baroque period in music history. Everything's pretty much by the book, you know, back in Baroque times. I mean, you could write some variations upon things, but nothing in some kind of bizarre minor key. You know, the minor key is the devil's key, right?
Yeah.
You know, if I go in there and play a C major, everything sounds all nice and happy. If I play C minor, all of a sudden you're like, oh, you know, that's a minor sound. It's like, it must be the devil, you know. No joke. People, you know, music and religion go hand in hand. It's where the first musicians and orchestras came out of the church, and the first composers came out. Most music was written about the church. So it's just a matter of how you approach the different tonalities of music.
And this dude got a little wild.
This dude not only got wild, okay, Niccolo Paganini, but he would be playing so much on his violin, like his strings would burst like guitar player style, and he would just keep on going, you know.
Jeez.
And people would assume that he was literally possessed by the devil, that he was like made his soul to soul to the devil to be able to be good at the violin because he was that good. Women would have orgasms watching him play. He would have people faint and stuff in his presence.
I told you once, you son of a bitch, I'm the best there's ever been.
That's based on Niccolo Paganini.
No fucking way.
Yeah, it is. Yes. Paganini's the violin player from hell. Yeah, that's who it is. So, but listen to anything by Paganini, especially his caprices. The 24 caprices, they're called. It's like 24 variations of the same melodic theme.
I just feel I feel so stupid that I feel like so uncultured. I've never experienced any of this, you know.
I only know about it because I was curious about it, not because like someone.
You're literally a lunatic.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I hope you don't take that as a negative.
No, not at all.
Because like you're definitely psychotic to a certain point. For you to be able to like, you know, just like channel these like, you know, these rhythms of like how you could like just pull these names, it really is like crazy. And that's why I was asking you weird shit, like if you have premonitions, like because you obviously got something going on that's different because I don't know, you don't seem to be normal, to be honest.
Right, thank you.
But I couldn't be more, you know, just thankful and just like enjoyed my time with you more. Like it's fascinating. I feel like that, you know, I got a whole life of lessons in, you know, 3.5 hours.
Right.
But it's just like, you know, it's crazy. It's really, 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 really mind blowing.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You know, it's, I mean, I would go to tell you like literally, it's the same thing I tell my kids, you know, I mean, if you have something that you like, don't let anybody tell you no, or that you shouldn't be researching this or shouldn't be reading that. Question everything.
Yeah.
If I had to like have a tombstone, right, and I needed some kind of motto, that would be it.
Question everything.
Question everything. Everything. Question everything. Question everything you see.
I love it.
You know, then you'll never, you know, you always seek out the answer. It's like always be a seeker, not a follower. You know?
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Take a second, promote all your pages where everyone could find you, where everyone could find all this crazy information.
Yeah. So tune into Odd Pittsburgh, wherever your fingers lead you, whether that be Google, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just type in Odd Pittsburgh and you'll find me and you'll find the page and everything about it. You'll find stories just like this, hundreds of stories that I've posted over the years. You will have to seek them out and look for it yourself, but you'll be able to find it. And if you do have any questions or you have something that you want to share with me or something that you want to work on together somehow, or, you know, I that's the thing. I have so many opportunities and so many chances of things I could do.
Yeah.
it becomes like almost an issue to the point where it's
you
like
have to pick and choose.
I almost say no, say yes to them all, but then never follow through.
Yeah.
So it's like, I need to help. So if you do want to help, do anything, there's something that needs to be done with his history.
Yeah.
Something needs to be done with it. It just can't be just sitting there on the internet, like it needs to be like,
dude, let's keep doing these. I'm serious.
Yeah.
This, I mean, whenever this one came out before, out of 200 and some episodes, the most reviewed, the most feedback I've ever gotten, people just like completely floored by it. And that's just, we didn't even open your book.
I know.
So we got to talk about what we could try to figure out to do. Cause like I explained to my wife, whenever we set this date on Friday and, we decided to sit down, I texted my wife and I was like, cause the first time I was like, I caught lightning in a bottle. That's what it felt like, because it's like, it really feels like it's just like crazy, like everything's going on, and for you to just sit and focus on it is, it's, I don't know, raw power. You just gotta channel it the right way. Odd Pittsburgh everywhere. You could find him everywhere. I'll have all the links below. Please scroll down. Please follow him. Please follow me. Please keep in touch. Check out the last episode if you haven't. And I appreciate everyone listening as usual. Each and every week we're back with awesome people in the city doing dope things, and I appreciate it. So I'll call you right back.